Good afternoon, Mark. How are you?
Dr. Kimsey's, welcome to the North Point of View. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I just thought I'd start one of these tapes off.
You caught me off guard there. I'm starting on my left foot. I don't know what to do.
So we're here in the excellent studios of North Point.
Yeah, it's good to be here. And thanks to the crew, Han and Emily, for trying to make us look good. That's hard work, but they're doing the best they can with what they got to work with, right? I'm going to throw, this is like dangerous. I feel like I'm one of those batting pitchers. I'm going to throw a ball and it's going to come back at me so hard. I'm just like getting ready to duck. So, Walter, what do you think about the Fed's policy on interest rate hikes? And I know, listen, there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot of background. Inflationary pressure has been extraordinary the last 6 months or so. So maybe we should unpack some of that before we sort of, throw it right back.
Yeah, actually, all of these concepts are kind of misconstrued in the press and in particular in Chairman Powell's comments, which, quite frankly, I think a lot of people are disappointed that he feels that a recession is needed to cure inflation, and he doesn't care that about the social justice aspects of that.
Yeah, and you and I talked about that yesterday. That's the thing that sort of grieves me, that at the end of the day, these aren't numbers that we're talking about, they're people. And so, but let's stay on the numbers, right?
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
data, because we'll get in the weeds pretty quickly.
Yeah, I get all upset over these things,
Yeah.
so I will stick to the numbers.
Yeah, let's do that.
So basically, prices go up because of A, an increase in demand, B, a decrease in supply, and C, all of the above.
Right.
And so what we've seen in the last year or two is demand for some goods has increased. But when I look at the inflation numbers, and I subscribe to Charter, it's CHARTR. I really like this weekly newsletter they send out. It's all about charts. And last week they did a bunch of charts on prices of various things, how much they've gone up since the middle of 2020. And the item where the prices have increased the least was clothing. Retailers' clothing, 5% higher than 2 years ago. And it's a steady increase, but it's very slow because it's a discretionary item. And, if they raise their prices too quickly, there's too many competitors, you lose business. But the items where you've seen the biggest increases in price have been automobiles, which we couldn't produce enough. We're doing like 15 million car sales a year between what's produced in North America as well as what's imported. Normally, we'd be selling 17 million, but we don't have 17 million cars to sell.
Right.
Of course, if you raise interest rates, that will magically make the chips appear and get inserted in cars, and then the cars that are sitting in the lots will be sold in the market.
So the punchline is, it's a supply side issue, stupid.
Well, yeah.
Scratch that, but...
That's exactly it. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at food. Food has had the biggest price increase. Have we become more obese since 2020? Maybe that's what it is. We're eating 50% more food.
I mean, I can lose 5 pounds. I mean, no doubt about it. But yeah, you're right. I mean,
We're not eating that much more
it's
food.
not a demand issue.
It's a supply issue. Let's see, what did we have this last summer? We had rivers drying up all over the country. We had horrible heat spells. We had droughts. And in the places that didn't have those problems, you had floods. So our ability to produce food was severely curtailed this year. And the consequence of less food supply and the same amount of food demand is that prices would go up. So, but if you raise interest rates, it'll rain more in the drought places and it'll rain less in the... Okay, I should knock it off. I'm being too sarcastic.
Well, but the point is that, it seems like the Fed wants to force a recession to extinguish demand. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's where, to your earlier point, it becomes problematic.
Exactly. See, in 1982, Paul Volcker had to do something very dramatic because what had happened was when wages went up, companies raised their prices. When the prices went up, the wages went up. And we created the spiral of, wage price, spiral is what they called it. We don't have that today. We do not have a wage price spiral. We haven't had it in 2 years. We haven't had it in 5 years. We haven't had it in 10 years. And so what this chairman of the Fed is doing is saying, let's take a 1982 solution to a 1982 problem, and let's apply it to a different problem in 2022, because if it worked then, it's going to work today. Right. And it's not the same problem. And we don't have wage price spirals. We don't have demand growing in excess of a growing supply. What we have is slightly high demand against a very low ability to supply. And what's happened recently, the reason inflation has stayed high is consumers have shifted from buying things, particularly things to do from home, to things to do on the road. Nobody's wearing a mask. You aren't, I'm not, everybody's had 4, 5, 6 vaccines at this point.
We're traveling, we're at airports, we're in hotels.
And the airlines are only able to fly 80% as many flights today compared to what they could do in 2019. We gave them money not to dismiss people, but they did it anyways.
Right.
And now they don't have the supply, and they're struggling to hire workers. And they're trying to pay this new workers they're hiring 2019 salaries, when if you look at the goods sector of the economy, like Amazon, Target, etc., they're not paying $8 an hour here in Savannah for a distribution center worker. They're paying them close to $30 an hour. I've even seen ads for forklift operators at $32 an hour.
Right.
So that's dramatically higher. So you get a company like American Airlines, and they think they're going to hire a bunch of workers at $8 an hour, and they're finding there's no takers.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So what's our best case scenario at this point with the Fed, in your opinion?
I think the Fed is to not lose face, because to them, they need to preserve market stability, so they're not going to change course very quickly. Unlike the British Prime Minister, who, wow, that was something.
Wow. Talk about a U-turn in the middle of the interstate.
Exactly. That was amazing. It's like reading a soap opera or something.
Yeah.
But they probably will raise rates again in early November. A week after that, we'll get more data on inflation. But I think they'll stop there because, a lot of people like me have written, letters to them. I've submitted my opinions to the Philadelphia Federal Reserve, where I have friends. And hopefully, some of that is getting through to the Federal Open Market Committee.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of pressure on the Fed right now. And I think that, your point that stability in the markets, is extremely important. And I think, you're right. Best case scenario is one more hike, letting it flatten out, get to next summer, and then hopefully things have leveled off and ease back up.
Right.
I know we're at sort of a time point here, but obviously this is a conversation to be continued. Walter, as always, thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, man. Good seeing you.
All right, see you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.